Hello and welcome to Law Weekly on Channels Television. Showing today, the Chief Judge of Lagos, Justice Ayo Philips, and the Lagos State Judiciary host the first Global Leadership of Women GLOW Conference of the National Association of Women Judges, Nigeria. The Rivers State Judiciary is in the news again. First the bomb blast and then protest over the NJC's directive on assignment of cases. On our interview segment, we talk to the former chairman of the Lagos branch of the Nigerian Bar Association on the developments in Rivers and what it portends for the judiciary. That's the lineup. I am Shola Shayeli. Details come up shortly. We begin in Lagos, where the State Judiciary last week Friday hosted the Southwest Zonal Conference of the National Association of Women Judges. We have all the details in this next report. The Global Leadership of Women GLOW Conference is an initiative of the International Association of Women Judges. The National Association of Women Judges Nigeria is, of course, the Nigerian chapter. The chapter is led by Justice Helen Ogunwumiju of the Court of Appeal, while Justice Kudirat Kekere-Ekun of the Supreme Court, who is seated beside her, represented the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Oloma Mukhtar, at this event. The GLOW Conference is being kicked off in Nigeria at this Southwest Regional Conference hosted by the Chief Judge of Lagos, Justice Ayo Philips, a former international director of the National Association of Women Judges Nigeria. Though it's a conference specifically for women judges in the Southwest Zone of Nigeria, the theme, Justice for All, attracted other women and some men too. The Oba of Lagos led some other traditional rulers and white-cap chiefs to attend the conference, which also had a moderate number of police officers, prosecutors, market women, NGOs, and others. In her welcome remarks, the host judge speaks on the essence of the conference.
GLOW is the abbreviated form of Global Leadership of Women, and the aim of this project is to promote justice for the victims of domestic and particularly sexual violence. As you can see from the banner behind me, the theme of this conference is Justice for All, and to this end we've invited traditional rulers, representatives of the Nigeria Police, market men and women, civil servants who deal primarily with women affairs, and school children and their teachers, as they represent a group of people affected by our theme today. One cannot be but very concerned with the increasing wave of violence against women and children in the domestic scene of recent, as we read in the newspapers, hear over the radio and television on a daily basis, gory tales of appalling incidences of torture, rape, and molestation of children by their caregivers, parents, relations, and opportunistic predators. These incidences are definitely on the rise in this country and should not be left to continue unabated.
The idea behind the Global Leadership of Women, or GLOW project, was to leverage the leadership and the wisdom of women judges, international and domestic.
As judges, we must always have at the back of our minds that our primary duty is to enshrine justice for all. When we talk about justice, there must be justice for all, both for the offender and the victim. Our courtroom battle is most times limited to the gladiating lawyers on both sides, with the accused's rights looming large in the midst of the dust of battle, whereas the victim's right is completely obscured by the dust of battle.
It is hoped that there will be a better understanding of the need to create a conducive environment, not only for the investigation of these offenses, but also for the trial of such cases in court. This would give victims the courage to report incidents to appropriate authorities with the conviction that their matters will be dealt with dispatch, discretion, and sensitivity.
The judges realize that they are limited by the statutory boundaries of their professions. But as wives, mothers, aunties, and grandmothers, they are determined to lend their voices to achieving results. They are unanimous that this annual status quo cannot continue. and is why they've chosen resource persons to train the stakeholders gathered here and to offer suggestions to reduce these issues of sexual and domestic violence.
We are all privy to what is happening or the stories around the Chibok girls. I am sure none of us wants to imagine what those girls will be going through now. Some of them who have read in the papers have told us how they were repeatedly raped 4 times or more in a day. As far as I'm concerned, what is happening in the northeast of Nigeria is a war zone. So it is a crime. It is a crime against humanity, and it is a war crime.
Everybody has a role to play, and it's not a case of saying it's the victim's fault. I expressly emphasize that it's not the victim's fault that they are violated sexually. It is left to the abuser who decided to violate. Because when we talk about it's the mode of dressing, if it's the mode of dressing, how come schoolgirls in drab outfits are molested? How come babies are molested?
When the police are investigating any offense of sexual violence or any sexual offense, basically they are the representatives, the institutions of justice for the victim. And it is imperative that the victim is not treated as if the victim herself or himself, because it could be a male victim sometimes, is on trial. Personal prejudices, how you think an individual should have conducted themselves in their personal life, which lent to their vulnerability, is immaterial. What is important is the evidence that is available, and the duty of the police is to put together that evidence.
We move on now to a quick recap of some other interesting legal news that we are tracking.
The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos is set to hear a case that should interest the youth. A young lawyer, Chukwunonso Daniel Ogbe, last week, Monday, filed a fundamental rights enforcement suit to challenge the constitutional provisions which bars Nigerian youths within the age bracket of 18 and 29 years from contesting elections in the country. The applicant, who said he had planned to contest the Enugu South constituency seat of the State House of Assembly, contends that the Constitution provides that Nigerians who have attained the age of 18 are adults. Yet the same Constitution bars adults who fall within the age bracket of 18 and 29 from vying for elected positions in Nigeria, a discrimination which he wants expunged. The suit is yet to be assigned to a judge for hearing. The appointment of the former governor of the central bank, Mr. Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, as the emir of Kano has not stopped eliciting reactions. It, however, has stalled the hearing of the suit he filed to challenge his suspension from the CBN. Will he abandon that suit, or does he still feel the need to prove a point that the suspension was done in bad faith? That's probably what his lawyers will be consulting him about. Last week Friday, the asked Justice Babatunde Adejumo of the National Industrial Court, Abuja, for an adjournment to enable them get to meet with their client and decide their next steps. The court then granted the adjournment, and on July the 4th, the lawyers will be back again in court with a suggestion on how to proceed. It's more than 60 days, and the Bring Back Our Girls protest continues. Although the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Abubakar, has clarified the issue of the purported ban on rallies, the counsel to the protesters, Mr. Femi Falana, believes that the court still needs to make a pronouncement on the issue. This was his submission before an Abuja High Court, which has now fixed July the 14th for judgment in the suit filed by the Bring Back Our Girls campaigners, challenging the pronouncement of the FCT Police Commissioner Joseph Mbu banning peaceful rallies and gatherings in Abuja. Legal practitioners in Akure, the Ondo State capital, under the aegis of the Nigeria Bar Association (NBA) last week Friday, staged a protest to register their grievances against the decision of the State Chief Judge, Honorable Justice Olaseyinde Kumuyi, to impose compulsory payment of tax as a bail condition. The lawyers argued that the payment of tax isn't compulsory for everyone, and that it negates freedom to liberty, which is a right guaranteed under the Nigerian Constitution. The Ondo State Chief Judge, Justice Kumuyi, had sent out a circular to the effect that people who will stand as sureties for accused persons must produce 3 years tax clearance documents. The protesting lawyers then marched through major streets of Akure, chanting solidarity songs against the new policy by the Chief Judge. They moved to the premises of the State High Court, where they prevented all the courtrooms from attending to litigants. They have equally given the Chief Judge an ultimatum, asking him to rescind the decision by Monday, failing which they say they will demand his removal. And we round off in Rivers State, where another blast occurred last week Monday at the State High Court in Ahoda East local government area. Reports say it's the third in the space of 16 months. The blast, which occurred in the early hours of Monday morning, recorded no loss of life but left behind major destruction of the building and offices. Court records of years of rulings, the judge's chamber, roofs and building walls were all blown up in the explosion. No one has claimed responsibility for the occurrence yet, but the police command in the state has declared a manhunt for the hoodlums. This has also raised concerns among the judiciary workers over the security of lives and property in the courts, especially as the 2015 election in the state approaches. Staying in Rivers, the crisis rocking the state judiciary is far from over. Last week Wednesday, citizens from the 23 local government areas in the state, led by their council chairmen and members of the National Assembly from the state, marched to the gate of the State Judiciary Complex to resist the appointment of Justice Daisy Okocha as Administrative Chief Judge of Rivers State by the National Judicial Council. The protesters claimed that her appointment was done through the back door and is an attempt to destabilize the state judiciary. Last week Tuesday, the NJC directed Justice Okocha and the most senior judge in the customary court of appeal to oversee the assignment of cases to judges, pending the determination of the suit filed by the suspended Chief Judge, Justice Peter Agumagu.
And now to our interview segment. My guest, Mr. Taiwo, is a former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos branch. Like many other senior lawyers, is worried about the developments in Rivers State. We spoke about that and other issues.